Hey everybody, Josh Davis here. Today I had a few ideas about some ABCs of online worship leading and online meeting leading. Just gonna run through them, and as I do, I'd love to hear any ideas you have, any things you've seen that have worked really well. Share your creative ideas in the comments. That would really bless me today. All right, so the first one is A, acknowledge the awkwardness. Now I say this first because sometimes the awkwardness starts even before we get to the online meeting or to the online worship session. It's happening inside us, and we each respond to awkwardness in different ways. How do you respond to awkwardness? Do you lean away? Do you try to avoid the situation that makes you feel awkward? Do you kind of double down and get into performance mode and just try to make it happen? Do you grin and bear it and pretend like everything's fine when it's really not? What's your response to awkwardness? Acknowledge that, because if you don't acknowledge that, it's going to drive your behaviors. It's going to drive your leadership in those online meetings or worship sessions. And then you also want to acknowledge the awkwardness for the people that you're leading. A simple way to do that would just be to say, hey, we've never done this before. Whatever it is, acknowledge the awkwardness and give everyone the freedom to just be human, right? Sometimes when we don't acknowledge awkwardness, we think that if we were to point it out or to say something about it, it would give it more power. But actually, when you acknowledge it, it gives it less power, and it gives you and it gives the people that you lead more freedom to be human. Letter B, be prepared. I learned this the hard way. I tried a Facebook Live art worship session a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to bring in a friend of mine to pop in and share some of his story on the Facebook Live. I got onto the session and then realized Facebook had taken that feature off back in November of last year, and I didn't know it. So then I ended up spending about 15 minutes just trying to figure out the technology at the beginning of the session. So be prepared. Test the technology beforehand if at all possible. Make sure you've got your cell phone fully charged, or your computer fully charged, or you've got it ready to plug in. You don't want that thing to cut off on you in the middle of whatever it is you're leading, right? Also, it's real easy for some of us to kind of free flow, and we can do that, and we can be spontaneous. In this season, if you're going to invite diverse voices to the table in your meetings, if you're going to make the meetings interesting, if you're going to make the worship times engaging, you're going to need to plan in advance and be more prepared. You're going to need to think through, and I'm going to give you a few ideas on that. Letter C, connect. Maybe leave time at the beginning or the end of the meeting for people to actually connect with one another, to chat with one another in the chat section, to send personal messages through Zoom. You can do that. There's this feature where you can choose who you're messaging in Zoom. I've heard of friends who will have like an online lobby time after their worship service. So they'll just pop into Zoom and let people just pop in like it's a lobby and just say hey to people and connect with people. Connect. It's really important. Don't just be sending all of your stuff one way, but connect. Hear from people. It's great to see some of you guys joining in. I see Calvin and Jeremy and Derwin. Welcome. Linda, good to see you. Just even taking a moment when people pop in to say hello, right? There's a connection that's really important. Letter D, diversify. Please don't expect someone to sit staring at a screen for an hour. We can do better than that. Let's be creative leaders and let's diversify. Diversify the voices that are speaking into the meeting. Invite different people to lead different sections of the meeting or of the worship time. In our community, we would have different people read the scripture in different languages, passing it around one to the next. This past Saturday night, I had different ones in our community share a story and then leading in a discussion time or a conversation time with simple questions. Think through visual. How can you change things up visually? Use verbal, use nonverbal moments, use movement. Can you invite people to move in some way? Last Saturday night in our worship gathering, we taught everybody on Zoom some simple ASL signs, and we got people moving as they're worshiping. Time writing, time drawing, time for people to speak out loud, time for people to type and engage in the chat. One of the coolest things I've done so far in this crazy season was to have my friend Sarah, who's an artist, painting on her Zoom screen the entire worship session. So as we're worshiping and as we're praying and as we're sharing, she's painting, and people are able to watch that the whole time. And then at the end, she was able to share her artwork and share her reflections. It was beautiful. Move away from your video, take 5 minutes or take 10 minutes and reflect on this. You could journal, you could walk around your living room, you could go get a drink of water, and just take some time to reflect and disconnect from the screen and then come back, all right? Really important. Lastly, letter E, encourage engagement. Encourage people to engage however they can. So right now I'm going to do it again. If you're watching this video, I'd love to hear the creative meeting and worship ideas that you've seen, or ideas you've had, or ideas you've experienced in the last couple weeks with online meetings. Type those into the comments. I want to learn from you. And I want, every time I lead something, I want to be asking people to engage. Not just sit and spectate, but engage. Please, let's share with one another. Drop me some comments or even just a word of encouragement if you found something specific encouraging to you today. Here's some simple things you can do to ask people to engage. Fill in the blanks work great. Today I'm thankful for blank. Just keep it nice and simple, but this will engage people of all ages. You're not asking for these long, deep reflections. Even one word, fill in the blank answers, and have people typing into the chat is a great way to encourage engagement. Also, you want to consider engaging beyond the meeting itself. Could you say at the end of the meeting, hey, we're going to take this conversation to our Facebook page throughout the week, and we're going to ask each other these questions. And some of you who take a while to process, we'd love to hear from you on Wednesday or Thursday as you have some answers to these questions. Just leave them on our Facebook page, and we'll connect with one another that way. Or you might give people an action point. Here's something you could do, take away from this meeting, a way for them to engage after the meeting is over. All right? If you're a worship leader and you're leading singing, consider leaving some space for people to sing. So you might be singing a chorus and you'll say, hey, let's sing that chorus again, and this time you guys sing it out and I'm just going to play, right? And so you play the melody on the piano or on the guitar and you just let people sing, because if they're not invited to, a lot of people are just going to be watching worship like this. And that's not what we want. When I lead worship, I don't want everyone to hear me sing. I want them to sing and lift their hearts to God in that way. We want people to engage with one another. We want people to engage with God. So those are some thoughts for me today. Thanks for leaving me your comments. I will read every single one, and I might try some of them out. And next week I might have some more thoughts, because I'm trying new things every day with these Zoom meetings. So God bless you guys. I look forward to hearing from you. Drop me a comment.